I press this again?
Yeah, press it.
Hi, this is Rabbi Tzvi Mendel. Thank you, it's working. Of Kal Bnei Yisrael, Congregation Kal Bnei Yisrael, Community of Jewish Friends, Bar Zalzitz. And we finally arrived to Thursday night. Hachaim-Matos-Masai. This Shabbos is a double Parsha. Plus it's Shabbos Chazak. We accomplished another book of the 5 books, another Chumash Bamidbar. The 4th one that encompasses all the first 4 and is an introduction to the 5th, especially Dvarim, which is considered like all 5 together, without getting into that. And it's also Shabbos Rosh Chodesh. Whenever we say Hallel, which we do on every Rosh Chodesh, special time, as the Rambam alludes to both by Chanukah and by Rosh Hashanah, that there's a special simcha when we say Hallel. We feel the connection when we read the history, B'tzeis Yisrael Mitzrayim, Hashem Zacharanu, Hashem remember us, Ma'ashav, what could we answer to Hashem? We owe him so much, Min HaMeitzah. We feel out of destitute, longing, and we say Pischali Shari Tzedek, Evan Moasa Abaynim. Nobody wants to look at us except for you, Hashem, and Zeh Hayom Asa Hashem, and Ana Hashem Hashiana, Ana Hashem Atzlichana. But the biggest Ana, like the Imre Yemes says, the Geir Rebbe, is the Ana Hashem Ken Yavdecha. What an honor it is to be Hashem's servant. One of the great tzaddikim said. So, we'll do a little bit of HaChaim-Matos, because it's Thursday night, introduction for Shabbos, then we'll have a great story. It's a little bit of a 3-week story, as you'll see. And then we'll continue with the duties of our heart about doing Tshuva. Thank God we're more than halfway through, I believe. And we hope that we'll go through it a number of times. So it really settles within us and makes us better Jews and better people. So Pashas Masay, the first HaChaim-Matos. In the second interpretation, he says, why does the Torah say, Eila Masay, these are the journeys, the travelings of the Jewish children of the Bnei Yisrael? Why doesn't it say, Eila HaChanuyos, this is where they rested? It says something phenomenal. And he says, Achen Yispar al pi divrei emes, anshe emes, those that speak the truth. That means the Kabbalists, the Mekubalim, which is brought down in Zayah Chelik Beis 157, that the Jews, when they went through the Midbar, when they were traveling from one place to the other in the desert, the purpose was in order to separate and raise the holy sparks that the other side put in the desert. The desert is the place of snakes and all kinds of ugly things, which stands for the opposite of Hashem's will, the opposite of the holy people. And only now, when they were finally in the desert, whatever the story was why they came to the desert, but when they were in the desert, and in one place they could be for a year, another place for 12 hours. The reason was because in one place there were so many more holy sparks to raise, and the next place there was less amounts of sparks for them to raise to accomplish with their being there. And that's why it says, Eila Masay, these are the travelings, that there was no other travelings ever before on this level, as Chazal tell us in the Medrash Beishas Rabbah 30, because what's so special about these travelings was it had all 600,000 neshamas together in one place. And Moshe Rabbeinu, who is equivalent to all the 600,000, Kihu Elon, because he's the tree, Shamimenu Noitzatsu Nishmas Samach Ribui. From him spreads out the 600,000. And of course, together with him, with Hashem's help, was Hashem's presence, of course. This all goes along, of course, with Hashem's presence being there, of course. And therefore it says, Eila Masei. Because even though we find that the Avos HaKadoshim, our forefathers, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, also did a lot of traveling, and while they were traveling, they raised the sparks from where they were. But still in all, it didn't come to the fullness of the wholesomeness of the neshama of the 600,000, together with Moshe Rabbeinu, together with them. And it's for this reason that Hashem gave the Torah also for the 600,000. This was a wholesomeness that God was waiting for, and brought down a special presence of the Shekhinah, especially with Moshe and Aaron together with him, and the Shekhinah. So this is the purpose of the traveling through the desert, in essence. Must have mentioned it a few times, but I think it goes along with this, is the great story about the great Reb Moshe Misamber, the brother of Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac Zedechayeva, who we mentioned a few weeks ago, was the yahrzeit, Sar Beis Hazaya. And Reb Moshe Samber was a big Chassidishe Rebbe that was known for his miracles and his helping Jews all over of all kinds. But he had something very unique about him besides all that. He never took a penny from another human being. And for this reason, during the weekdays, he would work in the fields, cotton picking, or whatever he did, among all kinds of people, made an honest living, and at night he was busy studying and helping people, improving people with kvitlach. Making kvitlach Shabbos. His Shabbos was, of course, out of this world, beautiful Shabbos and davenings and tishin and learning and dancing, and the joy was endless. But he had one question that bothered him for a long time. The question was that while he was working in the fields amongst all kinds of people, his mincha, he had to stop and go to the side and daven mincha. And his minchas were fiery, joyous, longing to Hashem's mincha, to Hashem, these minchas. And he didn't understand it. Because the question that he had was that Shachris, the morning davening, which came after going to the mikveh and learning a Blat Gemara and learning some Zoya and saying some Tillim, had the right preparation, the right achana. So he said, I could understand that God gave me the present of a fiery Shachris. It's also a present, because who could say they deserved it? Ma'ariv the same, the evening service. He came home and he would study and help other Jews and help other people of all kinds and do all kinds of hachanas, preparation for the holy prayer of Ma'ariv nightly. So he understood. But I'm in such a prusted place, such an unclean place, such an unholy place among all kinds of people. Who knows what kind of people? How does it come that my mincha was a special experience? Bothered him until he decided to visited his brother, Rabbi Heart-Tschuva. He gave him a kvittel, and he said, "My dear brother, I love you so much. Please explain this to me." His brother looked at the kvittel, and then looked at him, and he said, "Moshele, Moshele, what you don't understand is that there have been hidden sparks in these fields for hundreds of years that were longing and desiring a fixing. And Hashem finally gave them the present, which is you, so that your mincha is raising who knows how many hundreds of years of neshamas and bring them to its tikkun, to its fixing, and to its source." That's the reason why you had such great minchas. Keep on doing a good job. Through your mitzvahs and being kind to people and being honest in business and not grabbing away what's not yours and doing chesed, in fact, helping others, even on your expense, and the way you act and the Kiddush Hashem's, through that, you have the merit of raising so many more. Keep up the good work. What a deep story. And so we'll come on to the next story, which is, maybe, for 3 weeks it's good because it's a little bit of a negative story, but it's brought down here in the Bracha Nishto, Parshas Balak this year. And the story goes as follows. Everybody knows the great Franz Yosef, who was a great king. My father's Melacha told me that his mother said that she once actually saw Franz Yosef, who was known for his love of the Jewish people, Kaiser Franz Yosef, the Tsar of Austria. And I think he once came to visit Kapishins, and all the Jews came out, and they made a special bracha, a special blessing that we make when we see a king. Anyway, so the great Kaiser, or Tsar, Franz Yosef, had a close Jewish advisor by the name of Rabbi Yosef. Franz Yosef, Yosef. And not only did he trust him and let him take care of his affairs, and he also listened to his advice, but he actually loved him very much because of his honesty and his straightness. And of course it took a Tsar, Franz Yosef, to see these points in a Jew, but they say he was a lover of Jews, and wherever he went, he helped Yidden all over, and he realized what a special people we are, and how special the Torah and the Halach is that we follow, which keeps us so straight and so special and so good and so honest. And so, once discussing all kinds of issues with his advisor, he asked him, "My dear friend Yosef, I want to really ask you, and I need an honest answer. You know, I love the Jewish people. I've done many favors, both in Austria and other places, and I always stick up for the Jewish people, and I feel that you're very special people, and your Torah is true. So how does it come that all these years you're sitting in Gullus, you're sitting in exile away from your home, and so many nations in the world have hurt you in so many ways? How come?" Tough question. So Yosef answered him, "My dear King, Your Royal Highness, with the greatest respect, if you want to know the truth, I'll tell you the truth. And it's even hard for me to say it with my mouth. We Jews have one problem. We don't forgive each other. One Jew cannot take seeing another one's success. And that's the truth," he says to the king. The king says, No, please, my dear friend Yosef. if that's what you feel. I know you're honest and you always say the truth, but I've seen Jews in all kinds of situations, and just on the contrary, I can't get over their honesty and they left this conversation hanging. A number of weeks later, the king, Franz Yosef, decided to go out on a hunting spree, and he got dressed in his special clothes and took out his special dogs and his wig and decided to go into deep, deep wilderness with his people behind him. And took his special ammunition. And all of a sudden he saw this most gorgeous, beautiful deer that he wanted very much. And he started running after the deer. And the faster the deer ran, the harder it was for the king to run after it. And so he whipped his horses that were very loyal to him, and they ran and ran. Took hours and hours till they finally reached the deer, the beautiful fur that he wanted. Killed the bear. Took the bear onto his wagon, realizing that he's hours and hours away from anywhere familiar to him. And not only that, but all his people were left behind somehow because he was going so fast, and his horses were faster than any of the other horses. And so he doesn't know where he is. And it's getting dark. And deciding what to do, he thinks to himself, and he somehow decided with his horses to keep on going in the same direction he was going throughout the night. Here he was starved, tired, happy to have his deer, but nowhere's near home and nowhere's familiar. What does he do? So as it was beginning, as dawn started setting in, he sees from far a couple of houses. Some people already were waking up. And he was happy and, whipped his horses to go in that direction. And he knocks on the door of the first house, not wanting to say who he is. He says to the first person, "Sir, I'm a hunter. Would you please take me into your house?" And, "No, I'm sorry, I have no room for you." And the second and the third house, nobody wanted to welcome him. Finally, he comes to the house. He sees with a mezuzah on it. So he knew it was a Jewish home. And he already sighed a sigh of relief. Baruch Hashem. He was happy because he knew that the Jewish people are Machnise Archim, our father Abraham taught us, always taking whoever the person is, right? Like the story in the Chumash. And the Jew, before he could say anything, says, "Sir, you look so tired. Please come into my house." And he took his horses and tied them and took him into his house and put him on a special sofa so he could be comfortable. He says, "Listen to me, sir, you look like you really need a night's sleep, even though it's morning now, but you're more than welcome. I'll make you a hot tea so you warm up, maybe a couple of cookies and stuff, and then you'll go and lie down and sleep through the day and make up for your lost sleep, and then I'll let you go on your way. Unless you want to stay a few days, it's fine with me. We have a mitzvah of Achnasas Archim, one of the greatest mitzvahs a Jew could do, and I'd be more than happy to keep you in my home for a week, for a month, whatever you want." The king, of course, was overjoyed, and he, in fact, did fall asleep soon after. He gave him his own room. And the next morning, he slept for 24 hours. Next morning, he wakes up, and the Jew says to him, "Sir, what have you decided to do? Do you want another hot meal?" He served him then a hot meal. "Do you want a hot meal now?" He says, "Yes, I'd like to have something because I'd like to go on my way." When he finishes, he says to him, "Where are you going?" He says, "I'm going to Vienna." "Wow, I have business today to do in Vienna. I'd be more than happy to show you how to get there. In fact, I have a big, gigantic wagon full of schar, full of material that I'd like to sell there. And but I still have plenty of room for you. And the Tsar says to him, without even saying who he is, "Sir, you've done such unbelievable things for me. I'd like to give you my very fancy horses that I took along with me." And he says, "Nothing doing. I do a mitzvah for Hashem's sake, and especially the mitzvah of Achnasas Archem, and I would not take a penny for it," and refuse taking anything from him. Well, again, the king gained great respect for the Jewish people, and sure enough, he takes him all the way till his palace. And the Jew thinks to himself, must be one of the high politicians, one of the high Paritzim landowners or something. I mean, who goes to the king's? And king knocks on the door and gives his guard the secret numbers, the secret combination, and the guy opens the door for him. Okay. A couple of weeks later, this Yidel gets a telegram from the Franz Yosef, from the Tsar Franz Yosef, that he would like to see him in his palace this and this day, this and this time. And he thinks to himself, "Oh no, what did I do wrong? I paid my taxes. When that day finally came, he was up all night the night before saying Tillim and crying and davening and doing Tshuva. And well, he comes to the palace, and not only was there nothing to worry about, but the king himself comes out to welcome him and takes him into the house, into the palace, and says to him, "Sir, you remember that hunter that you took into your house overnight, and you held him there and fed him so nicely and did your great mitzvah of Achnasas Archem?" He says, "Of course I remember." "Well, I am that hunter." He says, "Really? Well, wow. Oh, you do look a little bit, look familiar, like I could see that it was you, actually." The king says to him, "Sir, I want to pay you back. The Tsar, Franz Yosef, doesn't take favors without repaying them. Please, tell me something that I could do for you." And the Yid says, No, we don't take money, we don't take anything for the mitzvahs. Excuse me. Finally, the Yid says to him, "Your Royal Highness, you could do me a favor." He says, "Yes, I'd be more than happy. The favor would be, there's another Jew in my city. That's my competition. I'd like you to take away his license to do business so that I can make even more money than I do." Franz Yosef couldn't believe his ears. But he had to follow through. And the next day he called in his friend Yosef, the advisor, and he said, "Sadly enough, you are right. It's a Jewish krankheit, it's a Jewish sickness. May Hashem heal us. And we should all really learn how to really love each other, not just in theory. It's great to have, in Yiddish they say, Zizogen and Liebhaben kostet nicht kein Geld. To promise someone something and to say you love someone doesn't cost any money. But really, in money things. And also in our attitude towards one another, to stop thinking negative or stuching each other or showing that we're better than each other. Let's really bring Mashiach this Tisha B'Av. Or before, tonight. Okay, we shall go to the Chayos studies of our hearts, and we are in the middle of the Tshuva segment. up to chapter number 6. Again, this is just a synopsis of the Chovos HaLevavos on Tshuva, and I can't stress strong enough that not everything is for everyone, but you pick out what is appropriate for you, and you ask a Rebbe perhaps what is and what isn't. But it definitely is a goal that we should all have, and if we have the goal, then we'll reach it at some point in time with God's help. There are 4 causes for a person to do tshuva. Basically, it's one of 4 things. Either because he recognizes and realizes the greatness and the goodness of the Creator that he's done with him, with his children, with his family, with his friends, and therefore he regrets the bad that he has done. And this is compared to a servant that escaped from his master and came back to him because he realizes the greatness of the goodness of his master. That's the first reason why a person does tshuva. Number 2 is because he did tshuva because he received rebuke from someone because of the sins that he did to the Creator. This is compared to a servant that escaped from his master and came back because someone rebuked him and promised him that his master will forgive him so he could go back. Number 3 is one who does tshuva because he saw another person that sinned and received horrible punishment, therefore he regrets it, and he's compared to a servant that escaped from his master and came back to his master because he saw how another servant that escaped received punishment, God forbid. And number 4 is one who does tshuva, one who repents because he himself received, God forbid, punishment, became sick, or whatever it might be because of his sins. And this is compared to a servant that ran away from his master and returned to his master because his master himself punished him because of his escaping. The one who does tshuva repents because of the first cause. He is the most accepted, appeases the most, the Holy One, blessed be He, however you want to understand that. That's the one who realizes and recognizes the greatness and the goodness that the Creator did with him or with his children or with his friends or with people that he loves, and therefore he regrets his bad actions and is compared to a servant or a slave that escaped from his master and comes back to him, realizing the greatness of the goodness and how his master actually treats him. Reason being that this is the most preferred way of doing tshuva is because he returned because of feelings of love and regret in his heart. As opposed to the other 3, each one is less and less accomplished or great or considered the real tshuva because it was done sort of like with twisting the hand. We will stop right here. Have a joyous Shabbos and a joyous new month, and may Hashem help. We should be dancing in the Beis HaMikdash with all the Yidden.